Hey everyone, this is Bo. In this video, I'm going to build this coffee table. This video is part 2 of the coffee table build. If you haven't watched the first video, I'd recommend doing that now because this one is going to pick up right where that one left off. Alright, so I was able to get all the dovetails fit and all the recesses routed and then chiseled out. So here's what kind of a finished product looks like. I've got both tables done. Unfortunately, during the time of working on these dovetails and their sockets, I was trying to pare away and chamfer some material, and I did the chisel slipped and didn't get my finger pretty good, and so I needed to actually get some stitches in it. First time that's happened. I've never had a woodworking incident that required more than just a bandage. So for the few of you that watch these videos, just slow down, clamp work pieces down before you start working with the chisel. Maybe wear a set of gloves on one hand, on your non-chiseling hand, if you will, just in case something happens and it slips. Got some wild grain, it skips the other direction you weren't intending, like me. It's kind of skipped the other way when I was zigging and it zagged. Stitches. So just a PSA here. Just slow down, clamp it down, push it up against some stop blocks, something, so you don't have to put your hand so close to the sharp thing. Anywho, so now that I got all the dovetails fits, I've got all the leg assemblies fit and looking good. It's now moving on. Now time to move on to shaping some of the components. So for the leg assemblies, I will be shaping the uprights. I'll be putting a kind of a small arc in these, and as well as the foot, I'll be putting a big round over here on the corner, as well as the top, putting a big round over in this, just to kind of smooth out this chunky look. So I'm going to be cutting up some 1/4-inch plywood for templates because I got a lot of pieces to do and want them all to be consistent. So I'm going to start doing that, laying out my the shape that I want on the 1/4-inch plywood, and then I'll transfer that to the work pieces. So here we go. So I was able to get all the shaping done of the parts. You can see all the tops and bottoms for the leg assemblies here, and then all the vertical pieces here behind them. I did not end up using a router or router table. I found that when I was bandsawing the waist away, I could get actually very close to my line with ease. So I did that, and then I took it to the oscillating drums or belt sander, and removed all of the any of the bandsaw marks and got close to my line and left it as is. It doesn't matter if they're all exactly the same, just as long as they're all very close. So now I will be moving on to sanding before I glue up these leg assemblies. I will be sanding just the edges and kind of the curved surfaces by hand or with a electric sander here. And then after I glue them up, I will sand all the faces with the drum sander so they're all consistent and all flush with each other. So I guess I won't film much of the sanding. You know what that looks like. Kind of this motion, this motion, this motion. So I won't film much of that, but once I get these ready for glue up, I'll start recording that again. So I've been able to get the underside of the tabletops, some of the small pinholes, and a couple of the knots that had some voids in them. I filled them with epoxy. That cured for a couple hours, so I flipped the tops over, and I'm on the top of the top now, and I'm filling some small knot and pinholes with epoxy on these. I just pulled the leg assemblies out of the clamps. They're nice and dry. And as well, I've been kind of bouncing around between all these things, and as well trying out some stain or color samples for the top. Just trying to figure out what process I like best and what colors I like best. So I'll probably end up with somewhere up here on the dark side of things, like my sole. But in all seriousness, I'm going to now send the leg assemblies through the drum sander to clean up and flush up all the edges, and then I'll have to come back and hit it. So I've been able to get a lot of the odds and ends completed. Things like installing the threaded inserts in the dovetail sockets, doing some sanding, getting the recess for the leveler installed and the little leveling hardware in there. As you know, 3 legs sits perfect on the floor. You add a 4th leg, you always seem to get a little wobble or rock. So that'll be used to adjust that. I've also been able to get small recesses cut for the connecting bolt that holds the rails to the leg assemblies. And then last thing I've been able to get done was create some of the slotted holes to mount the tabletop to the rails. I've done some shaping, some sanding. Next up is going to be a continuation of sanding. I've got everything wet down so the grain's been raised. I'm going to sand everything again. And then I think it'll be ready for paint, which is excellent. One other thing I'll be doing before I paint is on the top of the leg supports, I'll be putting a small dowel in the center here on both the leg assemblies, and then there'll be a small corresponding hole in the tabletop on one side and a slot on the other, so when you install the tabletop on the legs, it finds home, finds the right spot. So I've finally wrapped up all the painting on this project. I've got I got the last coat of white on the bases yesterday, and they turned out really nice. They've gotten time to dry here and set up, and everything's looking really good. You can see the paint I used in the background here. Maybe you can't. This is what I ended up using on the bases. I've had good luck with that paint previously on 3 or 4 other projects, so I stuck with it here, and it once again didn't let me down. One thing, I did put a little bit of primer and paint in the dovetail sockets just to give them some protection from moisture getting in there and whatnot. Of course, that ended up raising the grain a bit, so now the dovetails don't fit back in the sockets, but just some light sanding will be able to knock that down and get those fitting back in there. So I'm ready to move on to the tabletops, which I have sitting back here. I'm actually excited to sand for once in my life. I have this is the first time I'll be able to put the drum sander through its paces on an actual project, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Once I get done sanding with the drum sander, I'll be cutting the tops to their final dimensions, probably some more sanding, and then it's ready for finish. So hopefully by the end of today, it's pretty early in the morning, hopefully by the end of the day, I finish on the tabletops, at least the first coat, and yeah, we're hitting the home stretch here. That's it. So I'm excited to finally be at a point where I'm spraying polyurethane. I have got one coat of poly on these tabletops with, I just got done sanding it with 320, getting ready for the second coat. My finishing process thus far, I can't remember if I talked about it yet. Not sure. I've applied, I think it's been 3 coats, maybe even 4 coats of Mission Brown dye diluted with water. Stained it to darken up the overall color of the wood, and then let that dry for a day. And I came back with a coat of, or 2 coats I should say, of Danish oil that I applied within the same hour of each other, just to help really accentuate that grain, accentuate the figure in the wood. And then this has been drying for over 4 days now, about 4.5 days, where I've been coming out every day and wiping any of the excess oil off the surface just to make sure it's completely dry and cured before I moved on to this step, which was spraying polyurethane. I'm spraying water-based poly on an oil product, which can be maybe problematic, I'd say, but I have gotten the first coat down. It has adhered nicely. No bubbles. No weird looking. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of cloudiness where we got separation. The only downside I'd say is it did raise the grain a little bit more than I anticipated. But I was able to knock some of that down with sandpaper, and then I'll build up more coats of poly here and get it nice and flat. Here we go. Going to move on with spraying poly, and yeah, getting excited for this thing to be finished up. Well, that is going to wrap up this build. I'm really happy with the way these tables turned out. I appreciate everyone watching. Have a good one. That didn't make any sense. Hold on. Damn it. Words. Come on.